I'm Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and N-Scale, and welcome to episode 3. So this episode we're going to be talking about operations. We'll be going over our timetable, the trains we're going to be running, and the jobs that we're going to have on the layout. So first, let's talk about some of the operations. The layout's going to be run on a sequence timetable. We're not going to be having a fast clock because I don't want to restrict the crews to how much time they have on the layout, and I also don't want them to be watching the clock and feel pressured. So we're going to run it, like I said, sequence order timetable. And what that is there's going to be a order when a train gets done with a certain task, then the next train departs or the next train completes its task. We'll get into that later when we talk about the different trains, and you'll understand that. Next, it's going to be a dark territory. There's not going to be a signaling system. So that means we're going to be filling out track warrants, and we're going to be doing Form Ds in accordance with the NORAC rule book. Also, I'm going to be using car cards and waybills to help crews tell what the cars are, where they need to go. And I'll also give them the option if they want to use switch lists in conjunction or in place of the car cards. But I want to use the car cards to keep track of all the cars on the layout and off the layout. Let's talk about the jobs. The layout here, the way I have it planned, is going to be able to be operated from anywhere from 5 to 9 people. So it's all dependent on how big of an operational schedule I want to run, how experienced my operators are, and also how many people I have available. So let's go over the job descriptions. The first job is going to be the dispatcher. That's going to be the #1 position because that's crucial to running the operations on the layout. Second job is going to be the Yardmaster. That'll be the second in importance. Then after that, you're going to be your road crews, depending on how many crews I have, which would dictate how many trains to run at a time, and also how frequent they get to run trains. The fourth position is going to be a staging yard operator. The fifth position will be an assistant yardmaster, and sixth and final position is going to be the superintendent. So let's go over these job descriptions so you understand what each job and what they do. Dispatcher oversees all train operations, issues track warrants and associated paperwork for train movements, oversee overall operation of the layout when the superintendent is not assigned, and act as a staging yard operator when position is not assigned. What that means is, if we don't have enough people to run all the positions, that means the dispatcher is going to have a couple different hats here. He's going to be, doing his dispatch duties. He's also going to be acting as a staging yard operator. So the next job in order and precedence is going to be the Yardmaster. Yardmaster is in charge of making up all trains, assigning power, preparing all paperwork for trains, example, waybills and car cards, move cars in the yard when no assistant is available. So what that means is Yardmaster is going to be switching cars. He's going to be making up the trains, breaking up the trains. He's also going to be preparing all the paperwork for the road crews to take out with them when they go to do their switching responsibilities. Next position is going to be the road crew. And I'll be able to have on minimum 3 and maximum probably like 4 positions, 4 road crews, maybe even 5, depending on how many people we have available, and you don't want to have too many crews out there on the line because I don't want to crowd the layout room. The next position, the optional position, is going to be the staging yard operator. Now, the staging yard operator ensures that all stage trains are ready for movement, to include turning trains and assigning power. So what that means is he's going to be the mole in the hole. He's going to be taking cars and setting up the trains that are to be staged. He's going to select the power. Next position is going to be the assistant yardmaster. Now, the assistant yardmaster, when assigned, is going to function as a switching crew for the yardmaster. So, just as the position name designates, he's going to be the assistant to the yardmaster. He's going to be the yardmaster's gopher. He's going to be helping him with his making movements, dropping cars, making up trains, and also assist him with any kind of paperwork that he has to do. And the last position here is the superintendent. This is kind of tailor-made for me as being the layout owner and caretaker. The superintendent has the responsibility to oversee all operations of the layout, ensure adherence to the rule book, finally provide for and maintain comfort level, morale, and well-being of all operators and guests. So as the definitions describes, being that this is my layout. I'm also having people coming over who are going to operate the layout for me. I want to provide for and make sure that they have refreshments, that they're comfortable. Right, so that's the job descriptions. So hopefully now you can get an idea of how the layout's going to run and what positions we intend to fill here. And like I said, minimum size of 5, maximum of 9. I don't think any more than 9 people would be comfortable in the room, because the room's only 11 by 14. So let's go over a schedule. So in this, I'm going to pop this up on the screen here. This is the schedule. And what you can see here is a bunch of names. And I've used the Conrail designation system here. And so let me go over this. You'll see WPSA02, or at the top one you'll see there's YPSA42. Okay, so let's go over the Conrail designation. Y stands for yard, a yard job, and W stands for away freight. So these are local operations based out of a yard. So YPSA42, Y is the yard, P stands for Philadelphia Division Train, because the Browns Yard is part of the Philadelphia Division, and SA stands for Sayreville, and that's where the Browns Yard is located at, in Sayreville. And 42 is just the train number. So if you look down under YPSA 42, you'll see SROI. Now, Conrail used to use the letter designations. OI was for Oak Island. SE would have been Selkirk. PG would have been Philadelphia, and SA of course is Sayreville. But you can look online, there's a lot of good information out there, so you can get the complete the complete yard symbols. And so looking at this symbol here, SROI. SR I made up for the purpose of this layout. SR stands for Southern Railroad of New Jersey, and OI is Oak Island. So this would be a yard, this would be a road freight that runs from Southern Railroad of New Jersey to Oak Island. Okay, so now that I've gone over the letter designation, hopefully now that gives you a little idea what all these numbers mean. SA42 arrives from Oak Island. That'll be the Oak Island to Sayreville transfer, where it brings all the freight from Oak Island. Once SA42 arrives in Browns, then SROI is going to depart and run through the layout. And what that means is SROI is going to come from staging, run all the way down and back off layout to staging to connect with Winslow Junction. SA02 leaves Browns Yard and goes out to do its responsibilities. Once SA02 departs, SA35 is going to leave Browns Yard to go accomplish their tasking. And then once they leave, SA31 will depart. Once they're completed their switching responsibilities, SA2 returns to Browns Yard. Once they return, then SA35 returns to Browns Yard, and then SA31 will return. At that point, that's when we run the OISR, which will be the reverse of the first train that we did, the SROI. And then what that means is going to be Oak Island down to Winslow Junction for connection to the Southern Railroad in New Jersey. Once that runs through the layout, then we'll depart SA33 out of Browns Yard. Then the next train to call will be SA37 and leaves out of Browns Yard, and then SA91 leaves out of Browns Yard. Once SA91 leaves out of Browns and clears the layout, then SA33 can return to Browns, and then SA37 can return to Browns. So now you understand what a sequence order operation is. We're just going down in order of accomplished goals. No times, no time clock. It's a nice comfortable schedule. If we have new operators who aren't too sure of how things operate, it's nice, flexible, and comfortable operation, I believe. So now let's go over the train descriptions here. I read off all those numbers. They probably don't, you probably have a ton of questions like, well, what does all that mean? So this next slide I'm going to flash up for you. This is train descriptions. So if you look, the first one I've listed is the YPSA42. And that is the Oak Island to Browns Yard transfer. So what's going to happen is they're going to depart out of Oak Island with all cars to come down to Browns Yard, and then that's when the Yardmaster will start breaking up that train, start making up trains for the layout. Then there's the OISR. That is the connection with the Southern Railroad of New Jersey at Winslow Junction, and then the SROI is the reverse order of the train above. I just didn't feel like typing it all out. So SA02 and SA03. Now there's They're the same train, but for some reason Conrail was designated in the same train on a Saturday schedule as SA03. I still have not been able to find the reason why. If anybody out there knows why, I'd be interested in knowing. They leave out of Browns Yard and they serve the Gillespie branch and the Sayrehurst running track. So they're going to go out there and they're going to switch to industries and then return. So next train is going to be the SA35, leaves out of Browns Yard and services the southern secondary north of Farmingdale. So if you look at that track diagram I put up last episode, north of Farmingdale, that's going to be we're going to designate that the southern secondary. They're going to service just those industries from Farmingdale north, and that's going to be represented on off-track staging. So once they're just going to run to an off-track staging, they're going to wait until they can return and then turn their train and come back. Next train is going to be the SA31 that leaves out of Browns Yard and services the main line. I'm going to call the main line the line that goes from Browns Yard down through Jamesburg, Englishtown, into Farmingdale and south. That's considered the main line. You can look at that map again and you'll remember the orange line. That's going to be the main line. So SA31 leaves out of Browns and services the main line up to Farmingdale. And then because what's going to happen is if you go SA31 continues south of Farmingdale, the train's going to be so big, it's going to take so long for an operator that he may not actually complete it in an operating session, and that's not what I want. So I'm breaking it up into two trains. If you look at SA37, leaves out of Browns Yard, that's the second half of that SA31. SA37 did not exist under the Conrail timetable. It's a made-up train for the purpose of my layout. It's a freelance. So they leave out of Browns Yard and they're going to service the main line south of Farmingdale, including the Toms River Secondary, which will be the Ciba-Geigy plant. So going back, SA33 leaves out of Browns Yard and services the Dayton branch. This is kind of a late afternoon into the evening type train. I'm going to bump it up so just because I don't want to get into having to change night to day in the middle of the session. To wrap up the session, the operating session, SA91 leaves out of Browns Yard up to Oak Island, and what that train does is that takes all of the empties and freight to be shipped off the layout and takes it out off the staging. So there's our train descriptions. Hopefully that makes some sense now, and it can you understand how I'm going to be operating this layout. So in closing, this is going to be my last pre-construction episode here. Hopefully, no, next episode, episode 4, we're going to be starting prepping the layout room. I'm going to be getting my workbench together. We're going to be marking out the bench work on the floor so we can see where it's going to be, and I just test my track plan and test my my model and make sure that everything looks good. Also, I want to mention on YouTube, I picked up this channel. Stephen Bennett is the administrator of the YouTube channel. Him and his father are building this tremendous HO scale layout in their basement, and their father, he's been getting real in depth into the electronics and computerized control and CTC, and it's a great channel to go over and watch. They're doing some really good things. Check it out. And lastly, Facebook. My Facebook page has been exploding over the last week, and I have to attribute that to Andy over there at AV Big Blue Railroad. Thank you, Andy. You really pushed me from a couple of followers to I'm up there, and at last count this afternoon, I'm up to 270 followers. So go over and check his Facebook page out. He's got a great little thing going on over there with the Conrail layout up in his attic. So. All right, that's all I got for episode 3. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your support and following. We'll see you next time.